Hello, and welcome to another episode of the CLEO Edge Podcast. My name is Leigh II, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Council on Legal Education Opportunity, Incorporated, better known as CLEO. We're coming to you tonight from our first annual Spring Bloom reception at Goulston Storrs in Washington, D.C. We're so grateful to the firm for their support of CLEO, both tonight and in all the many areas they always have our back. Very appreciative of that. Tonight, we are pleased to be joined by attorney Jennifer Jones from Goulston Storrs. The firm is always a great supporter of CLEO's, and we just are so very grateful for always, being there for us. And so we're very pleased to have you join us on tonight's podcast. So welcome.
Thank you.
Great. So you're so accomplished, Jennifer. I've read your bio and you've done so many great things. So why don't you talk a bit about your journey to the profession? What is it that made you want to be an attorney? And what was the catalyst for you, wanting to pursue this pathway?
So I think most of my interest in law really started with my father. He was an attorney. He deferred law school, went to Vietnam. Actually, they were pregnant with me at the time that he was gone. So the minute he came back, we moved to Chicago, where he went to Loyola University for law school. And, he ended up getting a job as a prosecutor. Times were tough because he came out during a recession. So it was, people would have parties when anyone would get a job. And so we moved out to a little town called Freeport, Illinois, which is southwest of Chicago. And he was a prosecutor, and then he got a job at the Pentagon. So we moved to Northern Virginia, and back in 1977, and I've lived here ever since, on and off. And he was with the government. For me, I decided I might want to go to law school, but before I did, I went ahead and went to Michigan State University for my BA in political management, or political science, then my master's in political management at GW.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner. And right in between, I started working in real estate once I was out of Michigan State and before GW. And I found I liked it. My mother worked for Charles E. Smith, now part of Vornado, and was a property manager. And when I was in the middle of my master's, I decided I wanted to go to law school, and followed in my father's footsteps. Got into some schools here, but decided I fell in love with Chicago, and I moved there. And then I found I still really liked real estate. And so sticking my real estate business experience with law just seemed to make sense. And that's how it began.
Wow.
But I worked through law school. So I highly respect anyone who, in addition to working full-time like I did, I had classmates with 3 kids at home and second jobs.
Wow.
And it's inspiring, but also great experience if you want to start working in a law firm after, because you're used to crazy schedules.
So with working while you were in school, did you work were you a full-time student?
I was
some of our students do part-time.
I was a part-time student, but what I really found was with my friends who were in the full-time program, it was like a class or less than the full-time students. Okay. And so it made you much less supportive of anyone complaining about how hard law school was.
Right.
When they had all night and all day to study, and I just had night.
It probably made you have to be much more focused with your time, and which is
very disciplined.
Success component, right?
Very disciplined.
Right. I got you. So upon graduating from law school, how did you make your way entering into the profession? Because I know that's not always an easy transition.
No, I got kind of lucky, but it seemed really unlucky at the time. I was working for a company based out of Atlanta that decided that they wanted to close their Chicago office and divert their resources to other parts of the company. And they asked me to move, which was super flattering, but I didn't want to switch law schools, and I loved Chicago, so I passed. And it really gave me the opportunity to, instead of just working for real estate departments in various companies, I moved over to working in a law firm. And I got an opportunity to work as a paralegal in the real estate department of Holland & Knight in Chicago. And thankfully, 2 weeks into working as a paralegal, they said, wait, we can see you know what you're doing. We're going to move you to law clerk. And so that's really where I started my experience And for most of the last 2 years of law school, I worked at Holland and Knight in the real estate department.
That was probably an invaluable experience when you compare it to your peers, because I know people try to pursue associate, ships and externs and things like that.
It was huge. I was like, I had to hit the ground running, and I wanted to, because I wanted to show them why they would want to hire me.
Right.
I got to work full time. I was doing the same work as the associates for 2 years in advance of everybody else. What's interesting, though, is even though I got in the door, I didn't want to assume in a big firm that they would treat me like everybody else. And we all know law firms, they hire through the summer associate programs.
Sure.
So I applied for the Holland and Knight program. I also applied for another program, an old firm called Dancona and Flum, that later moved over. They got merged into Seyfarth Shaw.
Okay.
And so I split my summer. I got hired by both. And the cool part was I got an offer from each.
Okay.
And I was really happy at Holland and Knight. Plus, I had heard rumors of merger. So I'm like, let's stay with Holland and Knight.
You already showed your wisdom by being hedging your bet, right?
I did.
Right? That's awesome.
Don't want to make assumptions.
And of course, we can all see you now as the confident, successful attorney you are. But in terms of coming out first into the profession, we know it can be difficult in terms of from a DEI standpoint for both gender and ethnicity. So from the gender standpoint for you, how was it trying to establish yourself and I guess be taken as a true professional, being a woman?
I think women, just like any theoretical minority, because it's kind of silly to call half the population a minority, but
right.
Particularly in the real estate field, which was what I worked in, it's heavily dominated as male and heavily dominated as Caucasian male. And obviously I don't fit that bill. And, I also recognize that as somebody who's a Gen Xer, women who made it into the profession before me really had a harder road in a lot of ways. Just like the women, after me have it a little easier than I have. I had it a little easier than the boomers and the silent generation women that I worked with.
Right.
The hard part was a lot of those women, I think, really viewed themselves as only one woman can get in the door, because that was the environment I think they struggled with for themselves. And
only one seat.
Correct. And so, there could be some sharp elbows, even from the women. So you would think it was just the men. And sadly, a lot of those women thought that they were big champions of women, and not so much. I was lucky in being able to work with a lot of really brilliant people. So I gained great legal skill, but it really affected my trajectory in moving up within the profession. And there were a lot of rules that we got saddled with. I mean, I came up just as the uniform of suits was in play. And, women telling me, you can't wear open toe shoes, and all these crazy things that
kind of sounds like Mad Men.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Right.
Make sure you have pockets so you can carry your business cards. I mean, some of this stuff's practical if you're at a conference, although not so much anymore since everything's electronic. And
right.
But it was daunting at times, and I had instances where work was pulled away from me, and I was pretty powerless, in terms of origination credit. And it was hard to find champions to sit and make sure those unfair actions were rectified.
Did growing up with your, an attorney in a family such as your father, did that play any role in helping you to persevere, or did you have maybe certain role models that you look to help get you through those tough times?
It's funny you mentioned my dad. He's a great example, not just because he's a lawyer, but a few things. He's from a family of 9 children.
Wow.
He's number 2 in line. Grew up on a farm in Michigan. They had no money. They had no real opportunities. He paid for his entire way through college. He had a lot of love and support at home. Grew up Catholic, so religion was extremely important in our family, as it was in his. And, he lost a brother when he was a child, so learned how to persevere even personally through grief and difficulty. But I think also he helped me learn that there are different avenues for law. It's not all just one way, that you have to work in a certain environment, working a million hours and having no personal life. That's a way.
Right.
For him, he worked for the government. It was much more stable, like work-life balance. He was home every night with just a few business trips. Didn't make as much money, but was still able to help, myself and my some of my siblings to go through college. Master's in law school is on me. That's okay. But if you want something, I think there's actually benefit to putting some skin in the game and showing, it's that important to you that you want to keep fighting.
That's awesome. And I imagine you also saw yourself, even at that early nascent stage of your career, as a role model to maybe women and young females behind you, to let them know that you can do it. So absolutely.
I mean, I think that my experience, in fact, probably some of the most negative experiences in my career, only motivated me to do differently, to not, maintain the hazing environment just because it happened to me, that I would do it to someone else. And frankly, it made my focus very strong on wanting to ensure that, if I was at a gender diversity group meeting, I wanted to talk about how do we market and bring in clients, because if you're not sitting at the table and economically bringing money to the table at the firm, you're not going to have any decision-making rights and opportunities. And so I wanted to grow women's experience in those areas. And frankly, now when I get to hire people and I get a choice, my focus is the same for people of color. I want people on my team to reflect my clients and society in general. And that includes helping them to move up, to come to the pitches, to be a part of the team in a vocal and direct way, instead of behind the scenes where I get all the credit.
Right. That's awesome. And so that kind of speaks to your approach or your personal beliefs on DEI. But can you talk about how that permeates or is espoused within Goulston? Because I've heard you talk on other occasions about how supportive Goulston is and how much they champion DEI. And so talk about the firm's approach to DEI, and even so, why supporting organizations like CLEO is a worthwhile endeavor.
I mean, it's one of the reasons, I've only been at Goulston for almost 2 years. And frankly, I'd been working with CLEO at my prior firm. And it was one of my questions when I came, before I accepted. I said, I support CLEO. They're an amazing organization. I want to bring them along, and I want your support of me and of CLEO to be a part of that. That's true. And the two co-managing partners of the firm who I made this appeal to directly said, absolutely. We're happy to do that. And it goes to the core values of the firm. Channing Kelly.
Awesome.
She's part of our diversity DEI group, and they really do put their money where their mouth is. Goulston has a number of instances in which, and programs that we around the firm are a part of, both financially in terms of giving funds, but also, actively in mentorships. And we have programs for all levels of the lawyers to talk about the importance of DEI and various issues. Talking about microaggression and what views and things have been said or may be said that could make other people of color or women feel marginalized. Okay. And and further, when we do our reviews, both at the associate level and at the director level, the interests are not just about, well, how much money you've brought in the firm. What are you doing to be a good citizen? What are you doing to help each other and to grow everyone and not just yourself?
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So they make you put your money and your time where your mouth is, right?
Yeah.
So.
And they know who the teams are. Mm-hmm. They pay attention to the makeup of the teams.
So that very much sounds like it starts from the top. So it's not something that's lip service or something, because I can personally attest to how much you guys do. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about what do you, such a interesting environment now with DEI. They have certain battles going on, both publicly and privately, et cetera, as to what the future looks like. So What do you see the future of the profession being like in this regard, or what are some of the things you're on the lookout for?
I've kind of touched on it, but what my focus personally is, and I think Goulston shares this, is ensuring that it's not just good enough to get people in the door. I mean, programs that I've helped CLEO with, for example, are feeding the pipeline to create lawyers. Just getting a person of diversity to be a lawyer by itself is not enough. My focus is to grow those people and make sure that they are decision makers, that they get to do prime work and not just the scuttle work in the background, and have real relationship building opportunities with clients. I think that it makes the attorney that's in that position feel valued and part of an organization, and it mirrors the culture that is what Goulston is about, instead of just window dressing. I feel like, the last few years on diversity have been really vocal and painful in society in general, and I think it's a little faddish. A lot of companies, a lot of firms talk about the importance of diversity and DEI programs, and they've set all these groups up, but showing measurable results, not just in terms of count, but where are the count of lawyers of diverse nature within an organization, and what steps are you making to change that and improve it? I think that's where my focus is. I know Goulston's focus is on that, and I think it will get better over time.
Sure.
There's already more women in the profession. Right. Now the focus is on diversity, beyond women and into color, and we even have programs for transgender, and these things are important.
And CLEO, as you know, we've been doing this work for 55 years. I mean, this is, like I said, our 55th anniversary, and it's still so necessary.
Sadly,
that we find ourselves having to still, advocate for why this work is important, why it's still needed. And so, touching on that, are there things, or is there something, if you could check a box or flip a switch, that organizations like ours maybe could impart upon our students to better prepare them for the profession? Or there things you would, you think they could benefit from if they had coming into the firm environment, maybe you don't see?
I think a couple things. Don't give up. Don't let roadblocks. If your course is really to become a lawyer and you really are passionate about that, there's lots of moments that are going to, deter you along the way, probably. I mean, I certainly had those experiences where you question whether you should continue. Don't. I think economically, that's one of the biggest deterrents. Law school is expensive. Yeah. It's not getting cheaper. There are resources available, and keep trying. I mean, we had as one of our discussions on the attorney panel that we did a few months ago, right, where somebody, they joined the military in order to help themselves get through law school. I'm not suggesting that's the only way to do it,
right,
but if you're tenacious and you want to do it, there are ways to do it. and I think that if you have that drive, it will also be helpful to you as a lawyer once you make it, because it's a difficult profession, but it is so intellectually gratifying, and depending on what area of law you get into, I mean, it can have massive direct impact on people's lives in ways that, some of the pro bono projects I've worked on in my career are some of the most gratifying, because you're really making change in someone's life.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the affordability or lack thereof of the JD education, because, with an organization like ours that's been in existence for so long, some of our younger students are just blown away when they talk to some of our more senior alumni who went to Harvard, and their whole JD was less than half a semester now,
right,
for 1 year.
That's right.
Like, well, you paid what? The degree still is the same degree. It's
That's
just,
right.
Like you said, it just goes to how the escalation of cost and everything. So that's phenomenal. So now we want to do what we call a rapid fire session. Ask you a few fun questions just to, kind of get your non-legal take on a few fun things. So First one is, what is your favorite hobby?
That's
Do you have one?
That's a tough one. I would say I love to dance and sing.
Oh, okay.
Dancing maybe publicly, singing in the car, or karaoke. So I guess it's quasi.
So we can catch you at a karaoke bar in the area. Okay.
Yeah. Probably the third thing, which is completely off the wall, especially nowadays, I like to sew. Oh. My mother taught me to sew. And so I never get really a lot of time to do it. I made all my kids' costumes for years and years.
Oh, wow.
She made all of mine.
Oh, wow.
I've made dresses and
I heard sewing is very therapeutic.
It's fun.
For people with stressful positions like you. Yeah.
Got big quilts.
All right, and then what is your favorite food?
I'm going to say sushi. But I also really like breakfast food.
Really like breakfast food. I got you.
I could eat it every day.
Well, it's the most important. It says the most important meal of the day because it starts everything.
It's true. It's true.
And do you get to travel a lot, I guess, with your job?
Well, yeah. I mean, a good example is I was just at a conference that I returned from this morning, and thanks to flight delays, got in at 12:45 a.m.
Wow.
It's been a long day.
What a trooper.
But it's been a long day. I like to travel. I mean, I find, to go back to the client thing, I go see my clients, and I get certain clients to say, nobody ever visits us but you. And I think it's great. It helps develop the relationship and see where they work and how they work and what they're doing and what they care about. That one-on-one time is really great.
Do you have a favorite city or destination that you've been to or would like to go to?
Well, you know what I'm going to say, Chicago. My heart is still there. Oh. I love Chicago. Maybe second best would be New Orleans.
Okay.
But I can't live there because I weigh 900 pounds.
Yeah.
It's amazing food.
Notorious
and music.
food.
Great music.
And if you do have downtime and you get a chance to sit in front of a television set, what's your favorite TV show or movie that you like to watch?
I'm going to go with a TV show. There's a lot of things I like, but I'm sad that Ted Lasso is going off the air. Oh, yeah. It's such a positive, uplifting show, and I feel like there's so many negative things on TV. So
right.
I like
you see so much negative or contentious in your environment. So I guess we want a non-contentious thing to watch on TV. So
it's all about like tenacity too. Like don't give up and be positive.
And we're not sure if you're on social media, but do you have a favorite social media app that you like to use? Maybe to keep up with family?
I mean, I'm okay because I'm Gen X and my kids still call me a boomer regardless. I am on Facebook. Okay. But it's a great way to keep up with, family and friends who don't live near me and see their kids' photos and their puppy pictures. And I mean, I don't know. That's probably the one I use the most.
Gotcha.
Second to Netflix.
There you go. I'm a Netflix.
Amazon Prime.
Junkie myself, yeah. All those subscription lines. I think that's where half my check is going to now. So what is you've had you're a role model to many, and you've had, like you said, champions and role models. So do you have a personal hero or role model, maybe professionally, that you kind of look to as your North Star that kind of helped get you to this point? Outside of family? Yeah,
well, it's going to be a family member, but not my immediate family. I would say it's my Aunt Joyce. Joyce Harkis was my mom's oldest sister, way older, 17 years older than my mom. Okay. And Joyce was, she was born in 1931. She had 5 kids in rapid fire after turning, I don't know, I think she got married when she was 20. Mm-hmm. And when economic times were tough for their family, my uncle's business, he lost it, and it was a family business, so it was personally crushing to him from his father had started. She went and worked at the post office and was out on the docks moving mail with the guys and moved her way up, became a postmaster in Lansing, Michigan, probably within 20 years of starting at the lowest bottom level, and ended up ultimately the postmaster of almost the entire state of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And at a time that, again, women weren't doing those jobs and were barely getting in the door. And she didn't have a college. She had some college, but didn't finish her degree, but just was hardworking and smart and savvy and didn't give up. And I always thought, if she can do it, I can do it.
I can't imagine. That's a perfect example for your life. And I can't imagine how proud she be of your success. So it's phenomenal.
Asked for lots of advice from her over my life.
Well, as we come to a close, I definitely want to thank you so much for participating. Is there any words of wisdom you have to maybe your past self, or if you could talk to yourself going forward, or any of our students out there, just one nugget of wisdom you would like to share with them?
I think I've been a broken record, but don't give up. I really think that there's lots of challenges in life that can, I'm overtired. I don't want to do it. I don't like what that is. It's not fair. Keep moving forward, and fighting for what you're interested in, what you want, because you will be happier for it. If you like what you are doing and you enjoy it, don't let anybody deter you from reaching your goal. Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, audience, for listening to another episode of the CLEO Edge Podcast. We are definitely grateful for your time and attendance. You can catch every episode of the CLEO Edge Podcast on Spotify or other places you find podcasts. And also follow us on social media at CLEO Scholars on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And then be sure to check out our websites as well. Of course, CLEOinc.org, where you can learn about all our great programs, and also CLEOconnection.com, where you can join and network with other CLEO alumni and supporters of our organization. So we thank you again for your time, and take care.